Hello, everyone. Hey, guess what? We're 4 minutes early tonight. That's a bloody miracle. I hope the microphone and the camera's working. It bloody ought to be on this thing. It cost enough. Anyway, let's see who we got. It's Wednesday night again. It's the only night of the week I get where I give my bloody mouth a good seeing to. I talk for by the way, I'm only going to talk for an hour tonight. I'm not going to run it for 2 hours. It's too long. I've got jaw ache after one of these live streams. We have D.O. Savage 1, EVs like mobile phones with wheels. I don't know a whole lot about EVs, I have to admit. I've never even drove one. I've drove a hybrid, like they've got the electric motor. So as you pull off, it's like totally, it's weird. It's really weird when you've got an electric motor because the car just moves. You touch the throttle and the car just goes and there's no sound. And it's like, I'm not used to this shit. I like to have an engine I can hear, Anyway, we'll get into all that. Benoit, I think that's how you say your name. Hi, Alan. I think battery-powered cars are just a stopgap till a permanent solution is found. We all know the power grid can't take it, let alone the materials in the earth for batteries isn't enough. You are bang on the money, aren't you? I mean, let's face it. I mean, if you really go into this, you've got these massive mining machines, bloody huge bulldozers. They have to dig deep into the earth in mines to dig out lithium and all these precious materials, minerals that are needed to build these batteries. I mean, the problem is what's going on at the minute. It's not even funny, is it? It's like this climate emergency, which I think is all a charade. It's all a smokescreen. And I'll tell you what, it's all about money at the end of it, because all these corporations and these lot in bloody Davos, they're all pushing this. I don't know if any of you actually saw the other day when all these people were at Davos, Greta Thunberg, I mean, to her credit, she walked, it was like an 18-minute walk, and she allowed some people from Rebel News, and I think that the guy from GB News, that Thompson, something, Gal Thompson or something, guy from GB News, she was allowed to be interviewed. She allowed them, and they were all questioning her, but she was giggling and finding it was all kind of funny. She never really answered any questions, but she just made silly jokes like, yeah, I own 100 private jets and stuff like that. And it's like, she never even sort of like tried to defend her cause, which is a climate emergency, her cult, so you could put it. If you ever want to see that, if you go to Rebel News, you could watch that. And it was quite interesting. It was quite telling, to be honest with you. And it just makes you think that she really is just a child actor and she's had a script to read. And that's what's been going on. She's probably made a heck of a lot of money out of it. Anyway, I better move on before we get too far into politics. Not to mention disposing of the batteries and how much more harm it's doing to the planet, making batteries, range anxiety, charging networks, it's a mess. Petrol and diesels are still better for now. Yeah, of course they are. EVs, to me, not that I really know. I haven't really gone into that. That's why I'm asking you guys. But to me, it's not sustainable. Because at the moment, I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't think EVs are a bad thing. I think they're a novel thing. They exist, and people who can afford them, good luck to them. I mean, but what I don't like is the fact that it's being pushed onto us like EVs are the future. EVs for everyone. No, that's not going to happen, is it? We all know that's not going to happen. Like you've just said, the national grid wouldn't handle it. Flipping heck, right now, yesterday I was listening to the radio here in Cambridgeshire. They're giving like perks or reducing people's electric bill if they switch their electric off at certain times of the evening so they don't have blackouts. And that's not with EVs, that's just using your household electric. That's how bad things have got at the moment with electricity. And of course, electricity is going through the roof, the price of it. God only knows what it costs to charge. And I mean, sure, if you've got an EV and you've got a nice house and you've got a garage and you've got a charging point in your garage, you're going to be able to charge your car up of a night time, go out the next day. If say your car's got 250 miles range, you can go out, do what you got to do, go back home, charge it up again. But for the majority of people who are in communal parking spaces, places like that, you can't have a charging point all over the place, can you? It's not going to happen. A lot of people are going to have to go to the public charging points, which are few and far between at the minute, and they're going to get charged for it. And I'll tell you what, them charging points, they're out to make a profit. So I'll tell you what, EV is not all fun and games if you haven't got the requirements at your own home. If you've got everything set up at your own home, you're probably laughing and it'll probably suit your needs. But if you haven't, if you live in a block of flats and your car's down in a car park, what are you going to do? How are you going to charge your car up? You're going to have to go to like a public charging point. And it's not going to be funny. People aren't going to want to do that, especially when you can just go to a petrol station and fill up. Pierce, thanks for all your videos and live streams. If I don't get to watch you live, I always listen back to these days after. I love your down-to-earth approach. It's not down-to-earth approach. It's just I haven't grown up approach. I haven't been making much in the way of videos lately because I haven't really been doing, well, work is just like full on. It's just no time to do anything. I have made a video this week, another bloody timing chain video on the Mark 5 Mondeo, because that's all that was available. But it's been so busy at work. It's like juggling a fleet of taxis, rentals, sales cars, warranties, and flipping. My head is exploding with bloody jobs. I've never been this busy, and I don't like it. I don't want to be this busy. But anyway, Benoit, thank you very much. If I can't put videos out, then I feel it's kind of like, I do like to do a live stream. It's sort of like keeps us all talking sort of thing. I know sometimes it's boring, but sometimes you can all sort of like chip in and have a little conversation, put your comments in here. And like I say, at some point later on, if I get links out to people, you can sort of like I send you a link and you can join in the video. You can have more than me on the screen here. You can have quite a few people on this StreamYard. So you can all come up here and start yabbering away and talk, saying what you want to say. Anyway, especially about the TV. Yes, TV license, my pet hate. TV license crap, which should have abolished over a decade ago. Entertainment has moved as long. Yes, it has. I use Netflix, Prime, and YouTube, and haven't looked back since. Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Netflix and all that. You have to pay a subscription, don't you? So why is it the BBC can't do the same thing? Why can't they say, well, if you want to watch our BBC, you have to pay us a subscription, rather than trying to shove this license down your throat and say you've got to pay for it. And if you don't pay for it, we're going to send the goons round to peep through your window, make sure we don't catch you watching TV. It's all wrong. They're outdated. They're dinosaurs, dodos. They need to reform totally now. I thought the government was supposed to be sorting this out, but there again, the government don't sort jack shit out these days, do they? In fact, I don't even trust anything that comes out of the government. Hello, Paul. How are you? Give me an old diesel. Do you know what? I remember I remember the old diesels, like in a 1980s Ford Escort. Flipping heck, they were noisy. But who cares? You know, clouds of black smoke used to come out of the bloody things. Yes, mind you, diesels, although they used to be dirty, horrible things, these days the average diesel is really clean. I mean, sure, when they go wrong, they go wrong. But if they're in working condition, you look at BMWs, for instance, even these bloody Mark V Mondeos, the tailpipes, you can eat your dinner off the tailpipe. It's that clean. There's no soot there at all. They've come a long way in emissions. And you remember all them years ago when the government used to say, buy a diesel, that's the future. Now all of a sudden they're telling you diesels are evil. Shouldn't be buying diesels anymore. You need to go electric. By the way, if you've got a spare 45 to £50,000, you can own an electric car. It's probably all very nice, but it's a lot of money. Who can afford an electric car? And it's not just that. A lot of us would go out and we would buy a second-hand car. I've never, ever owned a brand new car. I know a lot of people go out and buy a brand new car. I don't think it's the way to go these days, the price of them. Unless you've got a lot of money, then who cares? But a lot of us will go and buy a second-hand car. Would you go out and buy a second-hand electric vehicle knowing that that battery is on borrowed time? From what I've heard, the batteries in these electric vehicles may have a 15-year lifespan or maybe 200,000 miles. Now, 200,000 miles to a diesel car isn't really that much. So you can imagine when you're thinking about your electric vehicle, you're going to have to change that battery at some point. And I suppose the people who buy these cars brand new, these electric cars, they'll get rid of them bloody cars long before that battery needs changing. And what happens to that car when it comes second-hand or third-hand? The people who buy that car are going to be stuck, and they're going to find these batteries are going to be failing, getting very weak, and they're going to need replacement. And they're not going to be able to afford to replace them. I can see that happening. And a lot of these EVs are going to end up in the scrapyard. Needless to say, what do they do with the batteries? Where do they dispose of these batteries? In the ocean to destroy the coral reefs, probably. Anyway, let me carry on. Hello, Andy. Yes, I'm doing. You've just reminded me. It's Jack Daniels time. Thank you, Andy, for reminding me. I need a bloody drink after all that. Honey Jack Daniels. And a bit of ice. I'll just crack the ice out. Shut the fridge. Cheers. Oh, damn, that's good. Okay. Thanks for joining the live stream, Andy. Hope you're well too. Power, hello. GM EV1. Hello, Matty. EVs are for people with more money than sense. Well, as I've already stated, if you have got a lot of money, and say, you know, a lot of people, they do have the nice big house and the double garage, and they can afford to have an EV. They can afford to have a charging point fitted at their own property. In which case, if their lifestyle is like they'll go out and maybe do 20 miles to work or something, maybe they don't do more than a couple hundred miles a day or less than that. They can just drive from home after charging their car overnight, do what they've got to do during the day, go back home in the evening and recharge it again. Nice and simple. There's no, and they're getting the cheaper electric by charging their EV at their house, because obviously the public charging points are going to cost you, that's for sure. And there's another thing. I hear that as most people pay road tax on their petrol and diesel cars, they are going to start charging road tax for EVs. I know it's exempt at the minute, but in 2025, they're going to rethink that. And I bet you, when there's a lot more EVs on the road, they'll start clawing some of that money back through road tax on them cars, even though they're zero emissions. You wait. If it's all on the internet, if you look it up, yeah, it's like no road tax at the minute. That's a little sweetener for you to buy a car. But in a couple of years' time, then we'll need a bit more revenue back off you. Mr. Dave, hello. Good evening to you, Mr. Dave. It's a lovely Wednesday evening, even though it's freaking cold out there. I tell you what, it's been absolutely freezing all day. And it started raining, that ice rain, like flipping. As soon as it touches you, it's like, whoa! Even the heater at work has struggled today to keep the place warm. Andy, hello. Yes, I'm doing fantastic. I'm doing great because, number one, I don't own an EV. And number two, I have a Jack Daniels in my hand. So everything is great. I don't actually, in fact, I don't even own a car. Full stop at the minute. That will change at some point, I'm sure. As long as they don't ban cars before I buy one. Hello, Sam. How are you? My dad has a Tesla Model 3 and I love it because it's so smooth. Funny that. Let me just go over to my other screen. I did look at the Model 3 Tesla. Base price of £42,990, they're saying here. 140 miles an hour top speed. 0 to 60 in 5.8 seconds. I've seen some of these EVs take off from traffic lights. And I will say, they go like shit off a freaking shovel, didn't they? Do you know what? I'd love to go for a ride. And one day, I no doubt I will, but I haven't been in a full electric car. I've never drove one. I've looked through the window of a Tesla and I've seen they've got like just a monitor in the middle of the dash. But it's like, I would like to have that experience. I'm not sure how I'd feel about it or whether I'd like it or not because I haven't tried it. But all I can think at the minute is I'm used to having the sound of an engine. So to be in a car that's got practically no sound is going to be a little bit bizarre to me, a bit surreal. But I want to have a go in one. So I'm going to look out for that. The Canucks, hello. You helped me out so much down here in Oz, in Australia. Well, it's a good thing you're not in New Zealand, isn't it? Because I hear Jacinda Authoritarian Ardern, whatever her bloody name is, has resigned, and there's a worse dictator coming to take her place. But yes, Australia, that means you're 180 degrees below me, down south. Anyway, good to hear from you. Loindy, hello. Must come and meet you sometime. Lecky cars are great, clean and fast, but I think they will find something better and make Lecky cars obsolete. Well, the strange thing is, I mean, you look at Elon Musk with Tesla. He's a billionaire. I mean, he must be really brilliant because he's made a fortune. And I'm kind of guessing that these Tesla cars are pretty damn good. They must be one of the best electric cars on the road. That's all I can think. I would probably buy one if I thought they were that good. But I really don't know at the minute. I'm not sure. And it all comes down to charging the bloody thing up. I don't live where I can have a charging point bolted onto my house. That is the convenience. You know what we're like? We want to get up, jump in our car, go wherever we want to go. And I guess for most of us, if you're just going to work and back a few miles down the road or whatever it is, it's not really that much of a problem having an electric car. But say you want to go out, say you want to decide to go down to Torquay from Cambridgeshire, like me, like sometimes I used to do. It's over 300 miles, which means you're going to need to find a charging point. And if you're in a conventional petrol or diesel car, you won't worry about looking out, having to plan ahead to find your petrol station where there's a charging point. You'll just go, wouldn't you? And when your fuel gets low, you say, oh, my fuel's a bit low. No problem, I'll just pull in at the next petrol station. Top up in 5 minutes time, you're done. But no, on an electric car, you're going to have to plan ahead, find an electric charging point at some petrol station on your route and hope that nobody's there when you get there, because you don't want to get there and find someone else is using it and have to wait an hour or two before you can actually charge your car up. It sounds like a bit of a nightmare. And I can't see, I'm not against electric cars. It's just the fact that the way they try and phrase it is that we should all have one. And we can't all afford one. And it wouldn't work anyway. They haven't got, like Benoit pointed out, there is not the infrastructure. And even if there was, the bloody national grid couldn't handle it. It can't even handle hardly heating our bloody or electric going to our houses, let alone charging thousands of cars on top of that. It would be a bloody nightmare. They don't think ahead, do they, these governments? Mark, hello. Dodge prepared years ago with the Charger. I like Dodge Charger. I like them cars. David, hello. It can't be that hard to put an alternator on them, surely. Well, you would have thought they would have had some way of charging the battery up. Well, I think they do. There is a slight something or other. I've heard even when you're braking or something, it generates some electricity to recharge the battery. But for some reason, apparently they can't do it. Whether that's the truth or not, I don't know. Because let's face it, they sell an electric car. Even if they could charge the battery, why would they? Why would they sell you a car that they can charge the battery up itself? A self-charging battery, and you would never have to charge it up at a wall socket. They wouldn't make no bloody money out of that, would they? It's just like the pharmaceutical companies. They want to keep you on their drugs, don't they? Whether they're any good for you doesn't really matter. As long as they can keep you on their drugs so you can keep paying. It's all about money. Hello, Matty. Spot on Benoit. Yes, he was. That's all right. Just got a text message. I'll get back to that later. Vic, yep. Luke, it's going to change the aspects of how people are going to learn and drive in the future because they're all automatics. Yeah, that's another good point. There's no gear changes, is there? Just an electric motor. Yeah, that's why I'd like to drive one. I would like to get behind the wheel and actually drive one to see what it's like, just for the experience of it. And if I do that, then I will give you my thoughts. But I can't at the moment because I've never drove one. Chris, hell will freeze over before I have an electric car. The infrastructure is a joke, and they're too expensive to buy. Well, that is one of the biggest problems, isn't it? They are expensive. They are bloody expensive. And this is the whole point I've been trying to make. Fair enough, if you've got the money, you can go out and you can buy a brand spanking new EV. But most of us we would go out and buy a second-hand car. And a lot of us don't have much money. So we want to get a cheap second-hand car, with years at tax and tickets, so we can just run around for a year. And if it does us for a year, great. I can't see these EVs being sold once they get to a certain age as second-hand cars, because these batteries are going to be a big concern and people aren't going to go near them. Can you imagine when these batteries start slowing down and, they need replacing? It's going to be a huge bill. It's not exactly you can get your 10 mil spanner out and replace it, is it? It's probably a huge job or a very expensive job, just the labour side of things, let alone having to pay for the battery itself. And what do these batteries cost? They're probably around about £10,000 or maybe more for the battery before labour. So you don't get that with a car, do you? Say your Vauxhall Corsa 1.2 petrol engine was to take a dump. What's it going to cost you? I should think at the very most, as prices are at the minute, you may well pay £1,000 for a second-hand engine for a Corsa, and then you have it fitted. What's that going to cost? £600-800 to fit it? So you could be, I don't know, £1,500 to £2,000 probably tops to replace an engine in a Vauxhall Corsa. What's it going to cost to replace an electric battery in, say, a Tesla or a Hyundai or, I don't know, any of these electric cars? It's going to cost a damn sight more than that. It's going to cost you more than £10,000. So all very well and good when they're brand new, but when they get so many years down the line, it's going to be problems. And then a lot of these cars, I reckon, are going to end up in the scrapyard a lot earlier than what the equivalent of a petrol or diesel car would be. Electric trolley buses didn't need batteries. No, they just need power cables overhead. Trams. Sam, I'm also looking at replacing my old van with an electric vehicle. I've heard something. There was some guy, I don't know if you checked him out. I think he calls himself Jeff Buys Cars. And he was talking about the post office in this country, Royal Mail, trying to convert all their vehicles and vans into electric vehicles. And he was saying it's the kind of price they're looking at is going to destroy the Royal Mail, although it's taxpayers are paying for it. But the price of converting all their vehicles to electric is phenomenal money. It's just it's going to break the company. It's just not practical. So I don't know, maybe you should check out his channel. You can sort of like watch his videos. He seemed to make a lot of sense. Gary, out of reach for the normal person, too expensive and bit pointless when electricity charges are so high. Yeah, you see a lot of things are very high at the minute on the back of the pandemic, aren't they? It's all like it was all planned out all along. So they call it a cost of living crisis. Well, it was the bloody governments that caused all this with their flipping lockdownerisms. All that crap. If they'd have kept the economy open, we wouldn't have some of these bloody problems we've got now. And they call it a cost of living crisis. This country has got tons of flipping gas and oil all around us that can be drilled, but they won't drill for it because they're too bloody woke trying to flipping go green, destroying the economy. This is why prices are going through the roof. It just makes you wonder what's going on in this world. It's complicated, I know. Mad Max 2 Beyond Thunderdome, Tina Turner. We don't seem to have a choice. Alan, as a result, I will drag my Mondi 2.2 diesel till the absolute bitter end. There is no climate emergency, just research. Yeah, I don't think there is. I'll tell you what, it's been that cold lately. I'd like to know what. I'll tell you what, when it gets really cold and it stays cold, they'll probably turn it around and say, all that CO2 all you lot are pumping out is causing global freezing. We're in for a new ice age, and that'll be the next emergency. I bet. No, I'm with you. There isn't no bloody climate emergency. I believe what is going on, which they don't talk about, is they're destroying the coral reefs, which is a bad thing, in the oceans with all their pollution. I'll tell you what, if all these big corporations weren't so trying to make as much money as possible, they could make this world a better place easily, but they won't because they're too busy trying to make money. And this climate emergency is just being used. It's being used to get money out of the ordinary person. It's making all these very rich people a damn sight richer. And that's what the pandemic was all about. Wealth transfer. They want all the money and all the power, and they want to control everybody else. And they want to get us out of our cars. That's what a lot of it comes down to. They don't want us having the freedom of a car. Look what's going on in Oxford. 15-minute cities. This is absolutely ridiculous. I remember when Al Gore, well, he's a flipping nut job, isn't he? And said New York City would be underwater by 2012. Yeah, but you'll notice here, flipping Barack Obama is one of these hypocrites. He's got a flipping great big £1 billion bloody mansion, flipping about 2 feet above sea level. He don't give a shit, does he? Because he knows his house is perfectly safe. He knows there's no climate emergency. He knows the sea level isn't rising like they're making out. Yeah, we have been lied to. And I'll tell you something, before 2016, there was, to me, I didn't even look at any of this. It was only after Brexit, Trump got in power in America, and after that, you could see the bias. You could see the bias as clear as day. That's why I got rid of my TV license. That is the reason why. I was sick and tired. I used to watch the Channel 4 news with Jon Snow and all that, and I used to like watching it. But after 2016, all the kerfuffle over flipping Brexit and Donald Trump and all that, you could see how left-wing they all were on this media in this country. And I got so sick and tired of hearing the one-sided conversation and the one-sided story all the time. So I decided to scrap my TV license. And all I watch now is independent commentators, people on YouTube, because I don't care if I'm wrong, and I'm wrong quite often. But the fact is, I like to hear both sides of the conversation. I like to hear the argument for and against. But that doesn't seem to be the case these days. They just want to push their one narrative. And a lot of people can see that it's wrong and it's not right. And they're thinking to themselves, this just does not sound right. It's not ringing true. And that's the problem. So there are a lot of people that will just suck it up and believe it all. I mean, I still see people walking around with them flipping visors on their face. And I think, for God's sake, it's been 3 years. Where the hell have you been, under a rock? But it's like, what can you say to people like that who haven't woken up? You're just like, no hope. I can't help you. But anyway, we're supposed to be talking about electric cars. This is the green energy, the Green New Deal. Not. Sam, the infrastructure is also not reliable apart from the superchargers from Tesla. Yeah, if there was one company I would trust, it would be Tesla. I've got a lot of admiration for Elon Musk. I think he's a good guy. I know he's a businessman and he's made billions, but he seems to be making all the right things and saying the right words and doing the right thing. And I'm glad he bought Twitter, because that's pissed off a lot of the establishment. They don't like it. Especially when he's going to hopefully expose Anthony Fauci, you know, that weird little bloody creep in the White House who told a pack of lies over COVID. That guy needs to be put in prison for what he's done. He's the one who he's the head of that National Institute for Health, isn't he? He's the one who's got links into that Wuhan lab in China. He's the one who's been funding the gain of function research in that Wuhan lab, where they've been playing around with viruses. Yeah, tries to deny it all, but it's all coming out now. Hello, Paul. Good evening, Alan. Good to see you again. Yes, good to hear from you too, Paul. It's Wednesday evening. I'm only going to, what's the time? It's 8:30. I was only going to keep this running for about an hour. So I'm going to try and move along. Hello, Vic. My Vauxhall Insignia will go to the ground when I'm done with it. Well, you see, that's what I've done with my Vito van. 16 bloody years I had that van until the rust got to it and the seals fell apart, and that was the end of it. I couldn't be doing with it. The prop shaft was on its last legs, and yeah, I tried to keep a vehicle for as long as I possibly could. And I think a lot of people now, that's what they're doing. If they've got an old second-hand car, they're just trying to keep it going. Save your money for something else, like your electric bill. Well, we have to save the money now, didn't we? The cost of electric. Lindy, going off piste here. Lane departure calibration on a Mark V Mondeo. Ever done it? Mine is reading it after fitting a second-hand rack. No, I've never had to do anything like that. Some of the taxis have got like 68 plates. They have got the cameras, you know, in the windscreen for the lanes and that. But we've changed windscreens when they got broken, but we've never had to do any calibration on them. I didn't even know you could. So maybe I'll have to look into that. But no, had nothing to do with that whatsoever. Yeah, aviation paraffin not taxed. Hello, Steve. How are you? I'm doing fantastic. Hope you're good too. I used your hammer again today. It's still very clean, you know. Haven't got it dirty. Anyway, good to hear from you, Steve. Andy, I've nearly been flattened twice in the workshop. It should be law that they must propel an engine type noise for safety. Well, you would have thought so. I mean, it's a bit like, you know, when people are wearing headphones and they're walking about and crossing the road, you can't hear the cars coming. Well, I guess that's the same thing. Now you don't have to wear headphones. You can just walk into the road and get hit by an EV because you can't hear it coming. Yeah. But I'll tell you what, the hybrids that I've drove, when like some of these American cars, you get in them and they've got like a V6 or V8 engine, but they're hybrid, and the electric motor starts the car off. And as you start moving, it's like silence. It's just bizarre. So yeah, that's what I mean. When you're in a gasoline engine car, you know you've got an engine. You can feel it. That's the problem with these electric things. They just, I guess it's because you're not used to it. But you would have thought they'd had some kind of sound so that people around can hear that it's moving. Very good point. EVs are going to keep us IC car mechanics busy, as folk will keep them running. Yeah. Well, there are quite a lot on the road now. I'll tell you what, I've seen a lot of Teslas on the road. probably because they're such a distinctive looking car. So they are getting quite popular, I guess. That's why I want to have a go in one. So I'm gonna try and do that. The vast majority of our fellow citizens are incapable of having their own thoughts and opinions. They simply subcontract their thinking to the WEF and the BBC. Yeah, well, I mean, that's the problem, isn't it? There are, the trouble is there's so many people that are just completely oblivious. They're living in their world and they're oblivious to what's going on around them. It's whatever they hear on the news is okay, yeah, oh yes, no problem. And it's like they don't even register that something's not quite right. So it's up to people like us to sort of like, hey, this doesn't sound quite right. What's going on? I want to look a bit further into this. No, sorry, BBC, I'm not quite believing what you're trying to tell me. It's annoying, I know. It's depressing as well. So don't go too far into it because it can get you down. You've got to rise above this sort of thing. That's the problem. Is if you look for doom and gloom, you're going to find it everywhere, no matter what bloody year it is. So we shall find out what will happen sooner or later. But as I can see at the minute, the world is not heading, well, the Western world, as far as I can see, is not heading in a very good direction with all this climate alarmism, which is based on no real evidence. And all the people that are shouting, no, you're wrong, are being shut down. And I think that Elon Musk could prove that in Twitter when he's brought out all these files that the government were involved and the FBI were all involved in going to big tech to censor people. They didn't want to hear. They wanted them shut down so they couldn't get their thoughts out. So, yeah, there's a lot of bad things going on in the world. I can see things going back to one man and his horse. Well, that's how they would like us, isn't it? That's how they would like us, all out of our cars. I don't know whether you saw, I'm going back to this Davos bloody crap now. They've got plans for 2045 or something like this for this city. This is a 5-minute city. You might have seen it advertised on the TV. It's like a great big long bloody city in like a glass shelf sort of thing, a long glass shelf, and everything you need will be in 5 minutes of yourself. It's a prison. It's a bloody prison, okay? That's all it boils down to. Because it may be all very well and nice to have your hospital, your school, and everything around you in this glass bloody shelf of a city. But if you can't travel further than 5 minutes, you're trapped. And people aren't like that. People are going to be sort of like in awe of something for the first few weeks or so. But when they discover they can't go any further than that, they can't go out and down to the coast or to the green fields or lakeside or wherever, because they're trapped in this prison, this bloody new sort of like city they've built. It's going to get you down. You're not going to like it. People are going to rebel against it. And if you go to that World Economic Forum, you can see this new city they've got devised, and it looks all very futuristic. But God Almighty, I wouldn't want to live there. I wouldn't be trapped in something like that. The future is not very good. This is not the kind of future people want. It might be all very well for these people that are planning it, but they're not going to be living there. That's for sure. Hello, David. So does this mean we will have electric planes? I don't think so. I'm in a car. You have a limited range before you need to charge. And it gets you a puncture, they will need to use a Jenny. No, dear. I'm going to have a beer in a minute and wash my whiskey down. People park at work or where they go shopping as well as at home. Yeah. Yeah, there are, the amount of cars on the road, thousands and thousands of cars. Can you imagine if all of a sudden they were all electric? It would be gridlock. The place would come to a halt. It literally would come to a halt. The national grid would bloody burn or blow a fuse, and that would be the end of it. Is it the cost of gas that is pushing up the price of electricity? A lot of gas-powered power stations. I don't know. I know that I've got, in this house, I've got gas and electric. And at the moment, the government are subsidising my electric. I'm paying just around about £9 a month electric out of my own personal money, and the government are paying like 60, nearly £70 a month, which is going to end shortly. So I'm sort of like copping it sweet with electric at the minute, even though if I have to pay it, I'm going to be paying about £80 a month electric. My gas bill here is around about £50 a month, and I'm about 200. I have my gas central heating on all the time in the evenings, not during the day, but in the evenings and the weekends. I have it on all the time. And I'm normally about 24, 25 degrees in here, and as far as gas goes, I'm about £200 in credit. So my gas usage is quite high, but I'm not paying that much, if you know what I mean. To me, £50 a month gas, and I'm well in credit, says to me that the price of gas isn't that bad. It just seems to be the electric. Love the Christmas videos. I thought I'd better get them all put together at some point. Because I say, at some point when the channel comes to an end, and it will end eventually, and then we'll all move on and do our different separate things. I thought for all the times that we did have together at Steve's garage, I thought I'd get all them clips put together as like what it was going to be one big video, but it was obviously far too long, so we made it into two. So it's just something to remember years to come. When I'm old and grey, well, I won't be grey because I've got no hair anyway. But Damien, hello. Have you had a video on replacing bulbs on a Mark V Mondeo? Yes, I have. I done two videos. One of the very early ones I done was replacing the headlight bulb. However, there is a little catch here. I'll go into it very quickly, but on the sides of the bumper, when you pull the bumper away from the wing, some of these cars have a little plastic clip which goes through the bumper into the wing. And a lot of our cars that we got, the Mark Vs, they never had that clip. But I have come across a lot of these cars now that do have that clip. So you could potentially try and pull the bumper away from the wing. And if you pull it too hard, you could damage the bumper. So you have to get your hand behind the wheel arch liner and remove that clip. And I did show that in one of the videos. If you want to see that video, you'd have to leave a comment below, and I'll try and dig the video out for you and send you a link to it. Then you'll know how to change a headlight bulb. It's easy enough to do. It's just knowing what clips and that to undo and remove and all that. It's a bit of a pain though. I mean, it's a stupid idea just to change a headlight bulb. Laser Capri, hello. I see a fight on the A303 at the services when an EV was fully charged and not moved, I guess, and there was at least 10 EV cars waiting to get on the chargers. Infrastructure, no. How frustrating would that be? All you want to do is charge your bloody car up and get going. Just like at the petrol pump. Put the nozzle in, put a tenner's worth in or whatever you want to put in, and you're away. You're normally away within 5-10 minutes. When you want to charge your car up at a bloody electric charging point, you could be waiting hours. I mean, at the moment, because there's not that many EVs on the road, chances are you'll probably get to a charging point, a public charging point, and maybe not have to wait too long, or it'll be free anyway. But it's going to come a time when there's more and more of these EVs on the road that they're going to be queuing up, and it's going to create a lot of frustration. And I don't see how they're going to make the infrastructure where the national grid can't handle it anyway. There's going to come a point, a tipping point. So I don't know what they're going to do, because the government don't like spending money, really, do they? Alan, have you watched a video on YouTube of a Tesla versus Volkswagen Passat diesel? No, I haven't. No, but it'd be interesting to know what the results are. You'll have to let me know. I might try and look it up. Mark, funny, once your house is warm, it doesn't take much to keep warm. No, that's right. Well, in here it doesn't, because this is like this house is 2009. It's the lagging in the loft is like that. And it's all well insulated. Once it's warmed up, it stays warm, you know. And it's like at night time, you're pulling the covers off because you're sweating, even though it's like 0 temperatures outside. But there again, I lived with my parents. I lived in an old 1960s council house where there was no insulation in the walls, and all they had was like a fireplace, a coal fireplace chimney, and my God, you used to get mold in the back bedroom I used to be in. There used to be like black mold growing on the walls. It's like, because there was no insulation, and the damp just got into bloody place. And that was an old council house that was knocked up here. There was a big estate knocked up. That's just cheap housing, really. So obviously the houses have come a long way, haven't they? I mean, some people call it cardboard city, but it's the insulation. You've got the wall, and then you've got the cavity, and then you've got the inner wall, like the I guess you call it the cardboard walls, but it all keeps the heat in. And of course, all these houses these days, they've got energy, well, everything has, isn't it? Energy ratings, energy efficiencies. Alan, do you think you can do a Mark V timing chain in the day? Yeah, easy. I've done one today. Well, put it this way. I started it Tuesday afternoon and finished it this morning, Wednesday morning. But yeah, I can do a timing chain in a day. I'm so versed on them. It's like, no problem. It all depends if I get disturbed. But if you don't get this, when I've done a timing chain in what? I've done one in like 6 hours. That's if you're just constantly on it. They're all right, as long as you know. I'm so used to doing these chains now. So it's not a problem. It's the case of if you've never done one before, then it's obviously going to take you longer because you're trying to work it out as you go along. But for me, because I know these cars quite well, I know what I've got on one bolt, and it's just like clockwork. So, but yeah, easy do it in a day. Hello, Stephen. Jonah now smells horrible, and cooling fan comes on. So I think they split the ignition off and on, and then it's fine again. Oh, that's strange. It smells horrible. I think you've got that car just for entertainment purposes, to be honest with you. You'll probably keep it going until it bloody dies. Well, I guess if it keeps going and you're not spending a fortune on it, then it can't be that bad. Stevie, hello. TV licensing. It's like you going around servicing people's cars without their consent and then sending nuisance letters through their door demanding payment. Yes, that's a very good way of putting it. They've got some front, haven't they, the BBC? They've really got some front. My John 64, hello. The Peugeot 1.9 and GM Isuzu 1.7 from the 90s were the best diesels in my... I know them Isuzus were good. They were damn good engines. They put them in the Vauxhalls, yeah. Oh, yeah. Not so keen on the Vauxhall engine, but the Isuzu one was a good one. Mr. Sonic Advance, hello. Good to see you drop by. I'm wondering how many first-time EV owners are going to replace their EV with another EV. I'm kind of guessing here. The people that have got a lot of money and can afford it will do it, because if you can afford it, then who cares? If it suits your lifestyle, then there's no problem, really, is there? But I'm just thinking of like the average person who doesn't own a nice house with a garage and a charging point at their own home. Most people who live in a street where they've got a park outside their house, or blocks of flats, communal parking and all that sort of thing, they're all going to need to use, charging points somewhere, and there just isn't enough. When I go down to Sainsbury's, okay, they've got about 3 or 4 charging points. It's like they always seem to be sort of like, most of them are quite clear all the time. But if you were to get a lot of EVs on the road, there's going to be congestion just to get charged their cars up. Delayed bat. Hello, Sweden. Have got nuts. The government tried to force us to buy electric cars. Over my dead body, I buy one. I love my diesel car. Cheers, Andy. Yeah. Now, what they're trying to do that over here, they're trying to do it everywhere. Electric cars are the future. Here are some myth busters. Electric cars are saving the planet. The electric cars are doing everything that's good in the world. No, they're bloody not. It's all bullshit. Electric cars are costing a fortune to actually dig into the ground to get the minerals out and the precious metals to make these batteries that they can't dispose of properly. It's like you only got to go on YouTube and dig out some of these electric vehicles, and you get some real people that have actually lived with these cars, and then you watch their videos, and you can see how on one hand they're happy with the car, they're nice cars, they drive right, well in most cases they do, and but then when they come to the crunch of actually living on a day-to-day basis with these electric cars, they do have their faults. And some of these people just sort of think, enough's enough, I'm not having this, I can't be doing this, and they get rid of it. They go back to a petrol car. So fossil fuels are the way to go at the minute. I don't think electric's going to cut it. Dio Savage 1. Yep, EVs, just like mobile phones, they end up with dead batteries. Either buy a new battery or just buy a new phone. EVs will suffer the same fate for sure. Well, anything that's got a battery, whether it's a disposable battery, and in this case, rechargeable batteries, they all have a shelf life. They all have a usage life. At some point, these batteries are going to fail. And generally speaking, from what I know about batteries, they'll work up until a point, and you can get to the situation where all of a sudden they'll just drop off. They'll drop off the edge of a cliff. I'll give you an example. My van, the battery was never a problem. Used to start the van all the time. And one day I drove my van, parked it up, went back to it 10 minutes later, and the battery was dead. It was just dead, killed, shorted out. That was the end of it. You could jump start it, but if you stopped it again, it'd be dead. You had to replace the battery. And that's how quick that battery went downhill. And I think the same for these EVs. These batteries are going to deteriorate over time to the point where they're going to need replacing. And by which time, the person who owns that EV is probably second, third, or fourth hand down the road. Will they be able to have the money to replace them batteries? And, it's the price of them. That's the problem. It wouldn't be so bad if it was like a normal £100 battery, but they're not. They're £10,000 batteries. Well, I think a lot of it is to get us out of our cars. They want cars off the road. Curbside classics, hell no. I'm lucky, you see. I've already lived through the days where you can get in an old car. Where I drove the Cortinas, the Granadas, the Morris Marinas, and all cars like that. I've already lived them days. I've experienced all that, and they were great. I loved it. Now things aren't so great. So I'm just glad I've had the experience of driving all these cars, all these petrol and diesel engine cars. Because a lot of people in years to come, if things carry on going the way they are, they're not going to have that privilege. You're either going to be stuck with an electric car that you probably can't afford, or you're going to be using public transport because you can't afford to buy a car. I recommend you get to fully charged show north and bring your camera. Do you know what? If it was probably closer, I probably would. I tend to stay around like this area, within like a 30-40 mile range. John, hello. I'm very good, thank you very much. The answer to electric cars is I hate them. The process of making batteries, all the mines, etc. It annoys me. I'll stick to dirty diesels or ST220s. Yeah. But of course, they're going to tell you everything's fantastic and electric cars are the future and they're saving the planet and they're so green and this, that, and the other. Wow, and there's bloody, I've said it before, music and bright lights from heaven coming out their tailpipes that they don't have. But they never tell you what goes into actually making these cars and how they're made and where the minerals come from and all the dirty machines are digging the minerals out of the ground and what that's costing, because it's fossil fuels being used to dig the minerals out of the ground to make these batteries. And they don't tell you where these batteries are going to go when they're dead and how much it's going to cost you to replace the battery. And they don't tell you that the price of electric is going up and up and up, and they're going to put a road tax on your electric car in a couple of years' time as well. So you're not going to be much better off. And as things stand right now, with the cost of electricity to go to a public charging point, are you really making that much of a saving? I don't think it's going to be a great deal. When you offset that compared to the price of the bloody car in the first place, you can go down the road and buy a second-hand car for a couple grand. How much are you going to pay for an electric car, even if it's a second-hand one? It's still going to be very expensive. And then you've got to put the bloody electric in it. That's getting really expensive. Unless the electric prices come down, and I can't see that happening anytime soon. The cost of charging is nuts. Well, it's going up, isn't it? It's going up and up and up because the price of electric's going up all the time. So what was once, maybe to start with, cheap electric, is not cheap electric now. Hello, Lee. I have read about EV stations in USA where you can swap batteries on certain vehicles on a journey directly from underneath the replaced with a fully charged. These in turn are then recharged for swap. Oh, that's interesting. I've not heard of that. But that could be an answer to some of the problems. But I guess in most of these cars, you can't just do that. It sounds like I mean, these are big batteries, aren't they? They're flipping big batteries. So I don't know what that would cost to do. I'd have to actually look into that. It sounds quite interesting. I'll see if I can find out a bit more about that. John, if everyone goes electric, they would need to build more power. Well, they would, wouldn't they? And that brings up the next big point. What is going to power the national grid? Wind? Solar? I don't bloody think so. No, they're going to need flipping coal-fired power stations, gas power stations. Why don't they build some nuclear power stations? What is wrong with nuclear? You know, they think, what do they think? We're all going to get turned into Chernobyl. Nuclear power stations, you know, the nuclear power has gone a long way since Chernobyl. So that's where that's what I reckon they ought to be doing, is building nuclear power stations. It's a bloody clean, efficient energy. If they want to get away from fossil fuels, is that bloody bad? As far as I'm concerned, the amount of fossil fuels around in Britain alone, there's plenty. So they should be digging for it, fracking. Hello, Curtis. Give me my diesel Mark V any day. Such a shame the Mondeo is to be discontinued. I did notice they have a lot of similarities to the Mustang. So maybe that's the next car for me. Them Mustangs are nice. Yes, I'd like to have a Mustang. Big, powerful. I mean, they look the part, don't they? And they sound so bloody good. I tell you, I've been to some car shows, okay? And I went to the TC Harrison car show in Peterborough back in the summer, well, late summer. And as I was standing at the gate, as the cars were leaving, some of the Mustangs were leaving. And as they pull away and they put their foot down a little bit, it's like, they sound awesome. I mean, them Mustangs, I must say, they are a good looking car. If you can afford to own and drive one of them. But apparently they're not that thirsty. So they can be fairly practical if you can afford it. But yeah, they do sound bloody nice. David, if you have solar panels at home, electric is free, so it would be worth getting them if you own an EV. Well, that's if the solar panels will actually charge your car up. The problem is with solar panels, I mean, this is another slippery slope, isn't it? There's all these companies selling solar panels, but what solar panels are actually the good ones to buy? This is the problem. There's a lot of solar panels that aren't going to last that long. And how long do these solar panels last? And if you're not getting any sun, are they any good? I mean, like here, I mean, I don't know, maybe in Britain, maybe not so bad, but I mean, some countries you're going to be overcast with cloud all the time, and you're not going to get a great deal of sun on them solar panels. And you've got to weigh up how much these solar, if you bought a decent set of solar panels for your house, how much are they going to cost and how much saving is it going to make you over the years? That's the thing. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Hello. There was a ship called the Felicity Ace, which was transporting cars, and an electric car on board caught fire that could not be extinguished. It damaged the ship so much it sank. Lithium batteries, folks. Yes, well, when these cars do catch fire, I mean, you can't just put them out of a fire extinguisher, can you? I mean, if anybody's ever experienced an electrical fire, it's not nice. They smell. The smell, for one thing, is absolutely horrible. And you know when cars are if you short out a wire on a car, it can burn all up the wiring loom. The whole wiring loom will go up in smoke. And it's I guess it's like that. It's electrical, and I don't know. There must be there's special equipment, and you need the firefighters need special training to put out fires on these electrical cars. And it's like if they do catch fire, I guess in a lot of cases the best they can do is cover them in foam or whatever, and just let them burn out. Because there's nothing you can do about it, really, is there? These batteries, they're all made up of like little batteries, aren't they? Thousands of them, and it's like once they're on fire, you can't just fling water on it. It's not going to work. You just have to isolate the car, let it do its thing, wait till it's a burnt out shell. My 2002 Seat Leon Cupra will do 0 to 60 in under 6 seconds and 147 miles per hour. Cost me £700 a few years. That's bloody good going. That's a quick one. We've got a Seat Leon at the garage. It's a sales car, and I'll tell you something. Flipping heck, it's quick. I think it's been mapped because it goes like shit off a bloody shovel. It really does. So yeah. Catch the local milkman for a test drive. Oh, do you remember them? Do you remember them milk floats years and years ago? They used to have milkmen come around in milk floats like electric vehicles, didn't they? Some of them were free-wheelers as well. And they'd deliver your milk in bottles, when you had proper bottled milk. Bloody hell. I'd forgotten all about that. Australia, where the potholes come from. We had electric forklifts during back-to-back 12-hour shifts. They were hopeless. There was no time to recharge them. This experience has put me off EVs. Well, that's the big problem when you got working vehicles, excavation vehicles and stuff like that, JCBs and all sorts of things. It's all very well, but a lot of these vehicles have to work around the clock. And if they can only work for a certain amount of hours, then they have to be laid up for 12 hours to recharge again. What good is it when the equivalent is you can put fuel in like a diesel one, you can keep it working all the time. So it's a drawback. Stuart, have you ever worked on the Mondeo hybrid? Do you know if they are any good? I've seen one. I've never worked on one. I've seen one. That's about it. I've never done anything to one. In actual fact, there was an American Mondeo Mark V we had. It was a hybrid, and the battery in it, which I believe it wasn't under the bonnet. It was. I can't remember now. It was in the boot or something like that, or under the back seat or something like that. We had to change the main battery in the car, just the ordinary battery. That's all I've ever done. I've never had any dealings with the actual hybrid side of things. So no, it's all like alien to me at the minute. And it's like, well, I mean, I'm stuck with petrols and diesels really. So as far as electric cars go, I really don't know next to nothing. I'm just trying to learn a few bits as I go along, because no doubt in a little while these are going to come along and I might have a little bit more to do with them. And when I do, then I'll let you know what I think. Power cuts and you're walking. Yes. There's already power cuts apparently around here. They're already telling people to limit their electricity use in their homes. So, and that's without EVs. That's just households. So, going back to the 1970s. Oh, John, I saw a video of a brand new job JCB digger it only has 8 hours use. They had to change it up from a diesel generator. Yeah, that's what I mean. You can only use these vehicles for so long, then you've got to be laid up again. Charge them up. I'm pretty sure it has to be charged while switched off, or the lithium batteries die off. Yeah, you're probably right there. I don't think you can use one of these, charge one of these batteries while it's working. I think you're right. It's going to have to be switched off, powered down, so they call it. Steve, I do not understand why sometimes like a Prius is zero emissions but does less to the gallon than Mondeo. I guess it all depends on the usage. You know when car advertisers, sort of like spin these cars like they can slip along for so many miles. These are in the ideal conditions, but they're not in like real world conditions, are they? Like for everybody just driving around town or something. They're probably going along a straight road at a certain speed, and they can cover a certain amount of distance and everything's great. But in the real world, it's going to fall far short of what the advertisers are sort of like pushing. The mayor of dipshittery. I like it. Electric cars are not for me. I have a couple of motorbikes and 2 very capable cars, and I like the sounds and all related noises rather than the sterile lack of sounds that come. Well, that I'm with you there. I like the smell of 2-stroke moped oil, when it's been burnt. I love that smell. I don't really get to smell it much anymore, but all these different cars. I mean, look, that bloody car show I went to, TVRs. Do you know what? I love it. All them exhaust noises. It's just fantastic. That's what we like. But electric cars, I mean, I know they're futuristic and that, but it's like they're quiet. There's no noise to them. I hear some of them. They have you can make noises on them, like they have speakers or something, so you can sort of like generate sounds of an engine. But it's not the same thing, is it? It's just not. It's just not the same. Two-litre diesel Mondeo does 70 miles per gallon at 50 miles per hour. Yeah, that's pretty good going for a big car. It is as well. By the way, I'm flipping heck. Do you know what? I've gone over an hour. I wasn't going to keep it going too long. I was just looking at a few things. Yeah. I mean, that was one thing that was getting me, was the road tax that they're going to start putting on these electric vehicles, which I think is a bit of a piss take, really, isn't it? They're telling all these people you buy an electric car that you ain't got to pay no road tax because it's zero emissions. And then in 2025, they're going to start pushing out road tax on these cars because they're going to want to generate all that money back, aren't they? So you ain't going to be in much a better situation. I mean, these electric cars, they've all got a place, haven't they? I mean, fair enough. I mean, it's technology. They're here. I suppose they're a very good car for certain people, but it's not for everyone. That's the thing. It's like putting all your eggs in one basket. You can't have just electric cars. It ain't going to work, and everybody can see it. That's why they should be sort of like delving into all these other renewable sort of like sources of fuel, petrol, diesel, whatever else is going. And £18 for a 9-hour shift to charge per day on a supercharge. I can do a shift for £25 on my diesel. Yeah. There's not a lot of difference, is there? The full underside of the car off to change the battery. Yeah, I've not seen the battery being changed on one of these EVs, but I shouldn't think it's a 5-minute job. And do you know what? I also think it's not a kind of job that any of us could do. I wouldn't know how to change one. It's probably a specialised job, and no doubt you've got to wear some kind of protective suit and know what you're doing. Definitely. The oil leak on the Focus has only just stopped leaking by itself. I'm not going to buy an EV now after all the leak watching and oil top ups it took. Andrew, hi Alan. What are you going to be replacing the Mondeo taxis in the future? I have no idea. No idea whatsoever at the minute. There's not even any talk of it. But there's going to have to be some talk of it sooner or later, because all them taxis are getting to the point where they're on borrowed time. They're all going wrong so much now. Oil leaks, timing chains, and it's just so much things going wrong with them that need replacing. It's just like, how much money can you fling at them? And it's, they were good. All these cars, they were good up to, I don't know, best part of 200,000 miles. Now, a lot of them are over 300,000, and there's just too much going wrong. And it's like they need to be sort of like gotten rid of soon, because you can't keep flinging money at them all the time. And it's not just flinging money at the parts that are going on them. It's the labour that's going into them. Like these oil leaks that come out on the rear main end cap seals, the hockey stick seals, flipping out. It's like a 2-day job. I know you can do it. I mean, I've done one in a day, but flipping, that's going some. You come home and you're knackered. And it's like just to do an oil leak in one of these cars is a good day and a half's work. And that's not to mention, that's in one car, and they're all starting to leak. It's like, yeah, the Mark 5 Mondeos, as far as taxis go, at Steve's Taxis, they're going to have to be changed sooner or later. I mean, we're keeping them going, but it's costing. I can tell you now, it's costing on average £25,000 a month just for Ford parts to go on them taxis. And it's ridiculous. Do you know what? A 208 litre barrel of 030 oil is just over £1,000 from Ford. I used a barrel in 2 weeks. And I've got another barrel in now. I'm going to have to find cheaper alternatives. So anyway, I'm going to have to call it a day shortly, because time's moving on. I was only supposed to run for an hour. 18k for a brand new EV Hackney cab battery. Oh, £18,000. I think I'd get a season pass on the buses or something. Electric cars work, but the problem is the range anxiety on how much miles they can do, weather dependent, and they don't make much noise as a V8. I'm staying with fossil fuels, more simple and fun. Yes, definitely. Yeah, I couldn't wake up every day and think to myself, right, I need to get I need to find a charging point. How are you going to find the time in your day? Say you work at a factory or something, and you've got to charge your car up. What are you going to do? You're going to say to your boss, hey, I just need a couple of hours off so I can go down to the local charging point and charge my car up. He's going to say, no, you can do that in your own time. Do that in the evening. Yeah. The range on the EV vans are only 100 miles. Oh, that's terrible. That's absolutely terrible. And for a van, especially vans doing deliveries and stuff like that, you'd want good range. Can't beat a V8. No, you can't, especially with a nice throaty exhaust as well. Leave the battery in solar garden lights, daytime. Solar garden lights. Daytime, remove at night after 3 days fully charged. God almighty. Right, it's now 9:20. On the stroke of 9:30, I'm going to curtains. Let me go in the fridge. What can I find? A bottle of Beck's, still hanging over from Christmas. Cheers. Tim, my neighbour has a pretty ancient Nissan Leaf. I've heard they're not a very good car. EV. It cost about £6,000 second hand and has a range of about 75 miles. Flipping heck. It takes her to work and back about 15 miles each way. Charges overnight at home. Well, I guess if that's all you're doing, then, and you can charge at home, then, hey, hunky-dory, the world's great. I'll tell you something, if it's got a range of 75 miles, don't plan on going any trips at the weekend. That's all I can say. Yeah, as EV goes, I don't really know for sure, but I've heard that them Nissan Leafs aren't the best EV to have. US taxing solar energy, its income, yes. Definitely. EVs simply don't achieve the stated objective. They are pushing them supposedly to reduce CO2 levels, yes. We see, I've looked into this as well, and I mean, I watch people, like that Richard Vobes and people like that, and CO2. They keep saying we want to get the CO2 down, but trees and all that, they breathe the CO2, don't they? And they push out oxygen. So CO2 is good for trees, So maybe a little bit of CO2 in the air isn't that bad. So I don't see that. I think we're being spun a big lie as far as this climate crisis. Where there's no climate crisis as far as I can see. You've only got to look around. Where is the climate crisis? I don't see it. All these people like that bloody Al Gore, all his predictions on the world is going to end. Well, it hasn't ended yet, has it, Al Gore? We're all still here. And they still, and people still listen to the twat. He's a bloody doom and gloom. The world is going to end. No, it bloody isn't. Roger, hello. Well, they simply don't reduce the CO2 levels at all. No, they probably don't. They probably cause more. Probably cause a damn sight more CO2 in bloody making the things. In some cases, they actually increase the CO2 output. Yeah. A beautiful rant. I like to have a rant. If you have a rant, it kind of lets off some steam, Just what we need. Rant of our hatred state enforcing lecky only EV future. Yeah, you call it lecky. I'm going down to pay my lecky bill today. Yes, you've got to have a rant. It makes you feel better. I like to have a good rant every now and again. Done 850 miles the other day. Hastings to Leeds, Leeds to Lancaster University, then to Iganmerk, Wells, Sleep, then Hastings. Don't think of it. No, they wouldn't bloody do that, would they? You'd be there 3 days, having to plan your trip and camping out at charging points, no doubt. It's ridiculous. I think EVs work if you were doing a set thing. If you know where you're going and you know what it's going to cost you and how much time and distance and all that, and it works. But if you're one of these people that are traveling all around the country, say you're a salesman and you're traveling all over the place, it's not going to work, is it? It just ain't going to work. It's all about control with these 15-minute cities, and the government is becoming tyrannical. Yes, I know. Only too well. You know what? I think all these little puppet governments, like what we've got in this country at the minute, I mean, we haven't really got a government, have we? We've got Keir Starmer. He's just a bit more red than what we've got at the minute. So a bit more communist. But they're all following these idiots at the WEF. So, and it's money. And it all comes down to money. So, I don't know. All I can say is, I know America is a long way away, but now the Republicans have got in, not in Parliament, in their government, but in the White House, but they've got the House sort of like the Democrats can't actually pass anything now because they're outnumbered. So Biden's on his way out because he's just completely a total cabbage now. He's just a vegetable. Well, he was to start with, wasn't he? So he's out. They haven't really got anyone to replace him with. That Kamala Harris, I mean, she's bloody useless. Where the hell has she been all this time, the last 2 years? In 2 years' time, I reckon the Republicans are going to win. And when they win, then we might see a difference. If Trump runs again and gets back in, or Ron DeSantis, if he gets in, he's going to sort of like change the country. Look what he's done in Florida. If you look into Florida, look what he's done. He hasn't put up with none of this nonsense. And his state, the state of Florida, is thriving. So it can be turned around. There's just some very evil people in this world. And a lot of them attend that World Economic Forum. They want to control the world and all the money in it. And they want all us living poor. They want all us eating bugs and living in bloody trees. So, but I don't think they're going to do it, because too many people are going to rebel against it. You can't have a few people control the whole world. It's just not going to happen. Just remember, good always overcomes evil. 2-litre diesel Passat estate. A lot of sense here. Already you can see early Leafs struggling used car market. Donkeys in old cars, worst way. 800, 1500. Cheap battery. It will be telephone numbers. Yeah. Right, what time? We're at 9:29. Need to make more low cars like Rover was doing, less wind resistance. Jeff buys cars, my fave channel from nowhere. You need to do a collab. Yes, I've watched him a couple of times. He's really good. He's common sense. That's what he comes out with. Common sense. I mean, he goes into it. He goes into the facts and tells a good bloody story. And when I listen to someone like that, I think, yeah, it sounds right. It sounds, it sounds sensible to me. So, yeah, he's a good guy. If they really were trying to reduce energy consumption, they would specify smaller cars. There is no need whatsoever to have EVs. No, I know it's all a big lie. It's just a load of crap's being pushed on us. Look at all these big billionaires anyway. They're all flying around in private jets. One rule for thee, but not for me. That's what it comes down to. How much energy is used to make the batteries for these electric cars? A bloody lot, I should think. From what I've heard, it's what it costs to make an electric car is more than what the running life of a conventional fossil fueled car would cost. But of course, they don't tell you that. They just tell you that electric cars are going to save the world. Not. Musk, the man who accused a heroic cave rescue of being a paedophile. Ooh. I haven't heard that one. Guzzle that whiskey like there's no tomorrow. I've got to save it. I'll tell you what, after a few glasses of that, I'll be out on the ground. I'll be out for the count. Tesla build quality is on par with a East German Trabant and probably less reliable. There's a lot of Teslas around. I see a lot of them around here. I want to have a going one, just to see what it's like. Aviation fuel is not taxed as if it were. All the airplanes would fill up where it isn't taxed. They can fly away, Yeah, that's why they introduced airport tax. There's a tax and everything, isn't there? Just had my Mark V wet itself. Looks like the EGR valve has gone south, but can't get a new one from Ford's. It's on back order. Bloody hell. I hear a guy who come down the garage some while back with Mark V. I changed his EGR on his Mark V, and he got his EGR off eBay. So I would look on eBay for them, and he got his a damn sight cheaper than what Ford is selling them for. So that's where I would look if they're on back order at Ford. Dave, hello. Hope you're well. Most EVs cost about 10 years worth of diesel, more than your average car. Yeah. I don't think they're very economical. Anyway, guys, I'm going to have to call it a night. I'm sorry I haven't got to all of your comments. One day we'll have to go for a bit longer, but it's like there's a lot of comments to go through, and I'm never going to get to the end of it tonight. I wanted to keep it going for about an hour, but I guess in summary, I'll just say, as far as EVs go, there's nothing wrong with them. They're a new technology. Fine, if you can afford one and it works for you, great. But it's just annoying the way they try and portray these cars as the savior of the planet when they're not. When in fact, cars are not even that big a problem compared to what they say they are. Cars are only a small percentage of the problem. Heavy industry is where all the fumes and CO2 is being pumped out, not cars. And they try and make out that electric cars are going to save us all when they're not. All they're going to do is drag us into poverty. So, but yeah, I mean, if you can afford one and that actually works for you, then great. There's nothing wrong with that. But obviously, it's like everyone, Benoit's pointed out, the infrastructure in most countries is not there to support EVs. Not on the kind of scale like if we all went out and bought one. If we all had 40 to 50 grand in our bank accounts and we could all just go and buy ourselves a brand new EV, the infrastructure would collapse straight away. The bloody national grid wouldn't be able to handle it. Anyway, it's been interesting talking about EVs. No doubt we'll have this more in the future. It's a fun topic, I'm sure. And I've had my rant tonight as well. So anyway, guys, thank you much for watching. Take care and have a good one out there. I'll probably be back on again next Wednesday, and I'll find something else to have a rant over. So thank you, everybody. See you all in the next one. Thank you again. Take care. Have a good one.